Hello world, double thumbs here. A few weeks ago I made a video on my Sony A5000 that I owned for about 4 years now. It's a decent 1080p camera that can give you that narrow depth of field with the right lens, but it is from 2014, so it can't record in 4K and it doesn't have a mic input. But it is small, light, and only $250, so it won't break the bank by any means. But there's another camera that's also cheap, light, and shouldn't cost you any extra: your smartphone. My Samsung Galaxy S10 is from 2019, but it can record 4K from both rear camera and the front camera, and has a mic input built into it because of the 3.5mm jack, and also has stabilization built into most of its lenses. So let's go find out whether the old A5000 still has a place in this world. So the first aspect that I'll compare these two is going to be the image quality and the video modes. And the Sony A5000 is limited to 1080p at 24 or 30 frames per second. You could do 1080p 60i, but I never use it. Whereas the Galaxy S10 can record up to 4K 60. That's 2014 versus 2019 level of a technology gap right there. The 4K of the S10 looks sharper than the 1080p of the A5000, even to a non-professional like me. But the A5000's image does have a narrower depth of field than the S10, even with the kit lens at f3.5. And that's because of the A5000's APS-C sensor, which is more than 12 times bigger than the 1/2.55-inch sensor found in the S10's main camera. You can get even more bokeh with the Sigma f1.4 lenses, and the A5000 does create that camera look. You could create some digital bokeh with the S10's live focus feature, and it does look acceptable, so I think it is a personal preference. Some people may prefer the sharp 4K of the phone with the digital bokeh, others might prefer the camera bokeh or the camera look. And if physics can be trusted, the low-light videos coming out of the A5000 should be a lot clearer and should have a lot less grain. So in the end, the phone is more capable in daylight, but the camera will be more capable in all lighting situations, so this will be a tie. And moving on to the second aspect, which is the stabilization. And in this one, the S10 just dominates. The A5000 has no in-body stabilization, and the lens stabilization of the kit 16-50 lens isn't the best. Lenses with better stabilization like the Sony A10-105 exist, but they're not cheap. Whereas the S10's digital stabilization works amazingly in daylight. Like most new phones, the lenses on the S10 have optical image stabilization, which is pretty impressive on its own, but it also has a super steady mode, which provides digital stabilization with a bit of a crop. This super steady stabilization makes handheld filming a breeze. The only negative is that you can only shoot in 1080p with this feature on, but look how steady this thing is. I don't think you need a gimbal in daylight. And on to the third aspect, which is the audio quality. And here the S10 wins again because the A5000 doesn't have a microphone input. And as you can tell right now, the A5000 doesn't have the best onboard microphone. And it's unfortunate because I think this is the biggest weakness of the A5000. Because if you want clear audio, you do have to record audio separately and sync it in post, which becomes pretty tedious. And it is a significant weakness, especially because the S10 does have a 3.5mm jack, which you can plug in TRRS microphones into. And I know some higher end phones don't have the 3.5mm jack anymore, but there are microphones that plug into the USB-C or Lightning ports, so there's always an option with the cell phone. And if feel like the onboard microphone on the S10 is probably better than the onboard microphone of the A5000. How does it sound? Is it better than the A5000's onboard microphone? Now with the Galaxy S10 and the U mic plugged in, this is a cell phone or smartphone microphone. So how does this sound? Does it sound much better than the onboard microphone of the S10? If so, then it's a huge pointer or advantage for the S10. And the fourth aspect is the field of view, and this is where the A5000 shines. And the S10 does have 3 different cameras on its backside, and it does cover 90% of the field of view that you need. The ultra wide at 12mm, the wide at 26mm, and the telephoto at 52mm. The front cam at 26mm is also very usable for selfies, but the A5000 has endless possibilities in terms of field of view because you can change out the lenses. The kit 16 to 50 lens translates to 24mm to 75mm in full frame, so you already have more zoom capability than the phone. If you spend more money on other lenses, it'll just open up more options. You can go ultra wide with Rokinon 12mm, which translates to 18mm in full frame, or telephoto with Sony 55 to 210, which zooms all the way to 315mm in full frame equivalent. So on to the fifth and the last aspect, it's the portability and the ease of use. And this also goes to the S10 because it's your smartphone. You have it with you at all times, or at least 99% of the time. And I know that the A5000 with the kit lens is comparable to a point and shoot in terms of size and weight, but the phone, it's just much lighter and smaller to carry around with you. And the S10 is easier to use as well because you can create 4K slow motion or color grade with filters all on your phone without ever going to your computer, whereas the A5000 can't color grade anyways, but you need a computer to do it. And the S10 is basically a computer with cameras built into them, whereas A5000 is just a camera with the old Sony menu system, which isn't the most intuitive. So in conclusion, the smartphone was the clear winner, and the S10, even though it's a year old, had sharper image and it was more stable and had more video modes and was able to plug in an external microphone. The only benefit of the A5000 was its bigger sensor, producing less grainy image in low light situations. And it's really sad that the A5000, my old A5000, couldn't keep up with the modern 4K smartphone. But it goes to show you that you don't need a camera to start YouTube or make YouTube videos. The 4K smartphone that you have will be good enough in 99% of the situations. And I'm pretty impressed with how much better the phone was, and I'm gonna use my phone more in the future for videos and see how it compares to the Sony A6400, which is the modern 4K camera. But do you think the A5000 is still worth buying in 2020 with 4K smartphones around? Let me know down below, and until next time, bam!